Welcome back to the NutriSave podcast. We're back. It is Thanksgiving weekend. This probably seeing this on Thursday or Friday. I hope you had or have an amazing Thanksgiving. I hope you have the greatest weekend of all time. Today is a rivalry week spectacular. We're gonna try to cover all the big games. We're gonna make a pick on pretty much every game. And so yeah, anything to say?
Little bit of a tongue twister there for you to start.
I cannot pronounce that word.
Huh.
All
Who
right.
knows?
So,
Maybe one day we'll be able to get through it.
yeah, something. All right. First one, Friday. Georgia at Georgia Tech, even though it's not on Georgia Tech's campus, it's in Mercedes-Benz, which is atrocious. But 3:30 kickoff, ABC. Looking at this game on its face, it kind of looks lopsided. Georgia Tech kind of comes and goes with the way with Haynes King. You kind of saw that last week when they played Pitt, the 2 interceptions, and Georgia Tech just had to play come up. And then when Georgia Tech would get back in the game, their defense would give up a big play. So the question is, how did Georgia Tech do it last year? Georgia Tech was able to run the ball. Georgia was not. Georgia only had 109 yards rushing. I think the Georgia Tech had, I believe, over 200. And so it doesn't look like Georgia Tech's going to be able to hold this Georgia offense to not being able to run the ball. Last year, Georgia was in the hundreds on rush offense. This year, they're 29th in rush offense. Georgia Tech is the 95th rush defense. So, how did Alabama beat Georgia? Beat them at home. They had way more penalty yards. They were 25% on third down, and Gunnar Stockton only threw for 130. Gunnar Stockton has slowly developed. You've seen it, the Heisman push for him. It's just slowly gotten better throughout the weeks. And I think this game's really going to come down to Georgia Tech is 103rd in pass defense. Georgia's pass offense 57th. But Georgia Tech's rush offense is 17th. Georgia's run defense is number 5. So not going to be much there. There might be a little bit in the pass game. Georgia's defense is ranked 49th. I think third down is going to be big in this game. Georgia Tech's been really good on third down. Their offense is 19th. In third, they're converting, I believe, 45, 50% of the time. So with Georgia Tech dropping their last 3, I try to present both sides. I really don't see this one. I think Kirby's got Georgia playing their best ball. You saw what they did to Texas, and I think Texas is a much better team than Georgia Tech. I just don't see a lot here. Anything to add, Briggs?
So, I think you're going to hear me say this a couple times today. When you get to rivalry week, everything from earlier in the season goes out the window because you're working your entire way up throughout the season for that one goal of beating whoever it is. For Michigan, it's for Ohio State, it's Michigan. For Georgia, it's Georgia Tech. I think these are going to be two not completely different teams, but you're going to see another level of play come from both of. Actually, you're going to see another level of play come from everyone this weekend. And what we saw last year, if I'm not mistaken, the spread was pretty close to where it is now, and we saw how last year played out. So I'm not going to say, hey, Georgia Tech's completely out of it because anything can happen this weekend, but
I have a hard time saying. I think Georgia Tech had about 10 weeks of gas, and they just don't have it anymore. You look at what Georgia's done in their last 3. They dominated Mississippi State, Texas, and of course Charlotte. But even then, beating Texas 35-10. That was an incredibly good defense that Gunnar Stockton had 5 touchdowns against, 4 passing, 1 rushing. And I think there's just going to be a lot more there for Georgia Tech. And it kind of goes with Haynes King. If Haynes King, Georgia Tech has to have another legacy game out of Haynes King. I think Haynes King had over 500 yards himself in that game last year. You need another one of those. That is the only way that Georgia Tech will come close in this game. And I just don't see how Georgia doesn't score 40 against them. So we will get to picks later, but I try to present both sides. A Haynes King legacy game needs to come. The spread is 13.5, over under 59.5. Next, another SEC matchup that is going to be, I believe it's 7:30 on ABC on Friday night. Texas A&M is a 1.5 point favorite at Texas in the Lone Star Showdown. And so, what is this game profile as? Because Texas A&M hasn't played the toughest of schedules this year. They've played pretty much only the bottom half of the SEC. And look at the Notre Dame game, because I think this is far and away the best team they've played since Notre Dame. And Texas kind of battle tested. They played the number 1 team in the country. They played the number 4 team in the country. They've played the number 8 team in the country. So Texas is a little more battle tested. Arch has the experience in these big games. And Arch's 3 of the last 4, he's thrown for 325 plus. I believe he has 3 touchdowns in all of those. And what was Texas's problem against Georgia is they couldn't run the ball. They haven't really been able to run the ball all year. They're 110 in rush offense. Texas A&M has the 27th best rush defense. And so you just look at this Texas A&M defense, and there's not a lot to poke holes in. Texas A&M has the number 1 third down defense. Texas has the 62nd offense. Texas A&M is number 2 in sacks. Arch has gotten sacked quite a bit this year. Texas is 79 in sacks allowed. But how was South Carolina able to get A&M in the first half? Turnovers and missed tackles. I would argue Texas has more skilled guys on the outside, better playmakers on the outside. And so the missed tackles killed them, and then the turnovers. If you're going to get Texas A&M, got to turn Marcel Reed over, as Texas A&M is 108th in turnover margin. Texas is 10th. So profile, okay. Well, Texas's probably best win is Oklahoma. So what do they do against Oklahoma? Forced 3 turnovers, and they actually ran the ball. So I think Texas has got to average at least 3.5 yards a carry in this game to be able to have a chance. Texas's front 7 gets to the quarterback a little bit more. They're number 3 in sack percentage. A&M is the 11th in sacks allowed. And so Marcel Reed's going to be able to get away. I don't know if that front is going to cause as many problems. I also don't think A&M is going to be able to run the ball. Texas has the 8th best rush defense. And so you look at both of these teams, and you see a path to win. A&M is gettable. I think A&M is the most gettable out of the 3 teams that are undefeated this year. I think of the top 5, A&M is very gettable. And so we will see. But Texas won this game last year. So I think Texas won the last 2. I think that Texas will continue that streak if they can run the ball.
My big thing is, for a team that has struggled to get the run game going throughout the entire year, I don't know if rivalry week coming up against a defensive front, it's not the best that Texas A&M has been able to produce in recent years. I think last year Texas A&M's defensive front was fantastic, but to go from trying to get a broken down machine in Texas's run game to try and now go up against a Texas A&M defensive front that has been adequate in stopping or minimizing the run game, I think is going to be a massive task. Now, where I think Texas can really capitalize is looking at what South Carolina did with the large chunk or the massive chunk plays. You had Nick Harbor's was it 80 something yard touchdown, and then you had the 50-yard touchdown in the first half against or for South Carolina against A&M. You talk about the missed tackles and whatnot. I think those are ultimately what's going to be able to allow Texas to win. But I think they're going to need to rely more heavily on Arch getting it done as opposed to the run game. Now on the other side, Texas A&M, you talk about the Texas run defense. I think where you're going to see a lot of A&M's running is going to be from Marcel Reed extending the play and then ultimately scrambling, trying to run for the first down. I don't know if they'll necessarily be able to get their running backs going. They've got two pretty solid backs that have been able to produce on a pretty decent level throughout the season this year. But going up against a Texas run defense that has been able to squander a lot of, I think they held Georgia pretty low on running. I think that was a pretty decent game through the air for Gunner, but for A&M to have to run the ball, I think it's going to not be their primary, like, hey, this is a run play, like a design run. It's going to be, hey, this is a pass play. Marcel Reed's going to have to roll out and ultimately break it for the first down.
Well, and I don't know how much A&M's going to need that. Texas is ranked 105 in pass defense, so I really don't know how much they're going to need that. It's just if they're not able to get to the quarterback, it's going to be a problem. They're going to have to get to the quarterback, and they're going to have to get there fast. Texas has not been great against running quarterbacks, so I think Taylor Green got them a little bit last week. Not a lot, but got enough against them. And the way they're going to have to do it is attacking the football, forcing a couple turnovers. I think Texas, if they can get ahead in this game, the home crowd and such will carry them to a win. And that's all I got on that. Miami at Pitt, 6.5-point favorites. The over-under is 50.5. Pitt and Pat Narduzzi came through on their promise. They said Notre Dame wasn't a big game or a must-win game. They won the must-win game last week. They have another must-win game. And this is Miami's third game out of Florida. And you know how many games in a row Miami's played? This is their 7th game in a row. So a huge rest advantage. It's going to be 33 degrees at kickoff. That worries me a little bit. Now, on the field, both these teams have top 10 rush defenses. Both these teams aren't great at running the ball. They're in the bottom half of the FBS. So both these teams have kind of gotten it done through the air. The big difference in this game is Pitt's got the 96th ranked pass defense. Miami has the 27th. So I think that, and Heinzel's still 6-1 as a starter. They won at Georgia. I believe it was at Georgia Tech last week. And so they were able to get Georgia Tech's defense. I think Miami's a little bit of a different animal. But how does the cold and the home field affect Miami? I don't think Miami's as good as Notre Dame is now. And I think it's going to come to a turnover battle again. Pitt is number 18 in takeaways. And, Miami's 117th in third down percentage. And Carson Beck can carve up this defense. But the problem you run into that is the turnovers. If he has another 2 or 3 interception game, it's going to be a problem. Miami's turnovers and penalties have costed them the 2 games they've lost, and that's why they're sitting where they're sitting right now with almost no shot of making the ACC championship. And so, if you're Mario, you gotta play a clean game, and I think Notre Dame kind of exposed that Pitt's rush defense was a little bit of a false stat, and so I think there's going to be a little bit there for Miami if they can get the play action going. And Carson Beck is accurate. He was accurate last week against Virginia Tech. You need another one of those games to keep Miami's playoff hopes alive.
I think there's a very real chance we see the Carson Beck from the Louisville game. I think Pitt, coming off of a game against Georgia Tech where they were able to generate turnovers and generate points off of turnovers, that I think is going to play a massive part in this game. I think if Pitt wins, it will be because of the defensive plays and defensive scoring plays. And so I think Carson Beck really needs to not throw interceptions, and especially in the cold weather. Hands are going to be a little bit tighter. Your whole body is just going to be a little bit more stiff. And so being able to kind of just settle in, ease into the game, and be able to kind of, I don't want to say be at peace, but like kind of get going early, get your body warm to be able to handle that temperature. Those big guys are going to be ready, and I think that temperature is going to play more of a factor in helping Pitt generate turnovers. So I think Miami's on big upset alert this week.
I think Miami kind of lucked out, or it could be worse for them because a couple months ago, you and I were talking about this, that Miami had to go to Blacksburg. And typically, Northern Virginia, you and I both lived in Virginia for a long time. It's typically a little cold in late November in Blacksburg, and it wasn't. It was 60 degrees at kickoff. So I don't know if that'll play any benefit, considering that Virginia Tech's a marginally worse team than Virginia Tech is a marginally worse team than Pitt. But I still think Heinschel can sling it. Heinschel still is a little turnover prone, and I think there's a chance that you see 4 or 5 turnovers in this game. So, and Pitt needs to stay on the field on third down, and Heinschel needs to stay upright. Like I said, I think I already said this. Pitt is 117th in third down percent. Miami's 7th in third down defense. It's going to be a big thing in this game as Pitt tries to upset Miami and keep their playoff hopes alive. All right. And I'm going to set the stage for this a little bit. If you would have told someone 5 years ago, we'll say, that Vandy and Tennessee would be a meaningful game, as in Vandy might be going to the playoffs and Tennessee is trying to play spoiler in Neyland, I think someone would have called you crazy. But Vandy comes into this game hoping that they can make the playoffs and trying to make the committee say no. It is a 3:30 kickoff in Neyland. Tennessee is a 3.5-point favorite. The over under 65.5. And my first reaction to that is, I think that's way too low. What do you think the losing team's gonna have? Is it 35, 40, 45?
I think
Both
it's 35. I
both
think
of these teams.
42-35, 49-35 is a good final score.
Well, and you look at both these teams. Both these teams are top 15 in pass offense. Both these teams are in the hundreds in pass defense. Vanderbilt, top 15 in yards of play, yards per pass, and yards per rush. Vandy is a very efficient team when it comes to that. I think they average like 9 yards of play. And so I think this is going to be a very explosive game. And You look at Aguilar's. Aguilar's been a little turnover prone. He's had, I think it's like 4 or 5 games with two plus interceptions. But you go on the other side to Vandy. Vandy's given up a 300-yard passer in three of the SEC, all 3 of the SEC games that they've given up 30-plus points, which is Bama, Auburn, and Texas. Tennessee averages 38 points per game and 292 pass yards. And Diego Pavia is still pushing for Heisman. 350-plus pass yards for Pavia in the last 3. And you look at Tennessee's losses, is they've only lost by giving up a 300-yard passer once. They've not given up 200 yards passing in the last 3. Pass defense has been a little bit of a problem this year. I think it's still going to be a problem. And I think this just very explosive. And the defenses aren't great for both of these teams, but I think some fireworks are going to go off in Knoxville this weekend.
I'm still kind of shell-shocked at the fact that we're sitting here last weekend of November, rivalry weekend, and Vanderbilt still has a shot at the playoff. If you had told me that last year, I would have called you crazy. If you would have told me that 5 years ago, I would have asked what drugs you were on. The fact that like this is how it's played out has been mind-boggling to me as someone who's in the SEC, as someone who's followed the SEC for years. Incredible. The things that NIL can do for a program now. On the flip side, I think Neyland and home field advantage is going to be ultimately what is going to help Tennessee win this game. Neyland is one of the best atmospheres in college football, one of the most raucous atmospheres. They know how to get down and party there in Knoxville. So I think for Tennessee to win, they got to get the crowd in it early. I think they got to get quick touchdowns, quick points to get them in it and keep them in it. And if you're Vanderbilt, on the flip side, you got to do the exact opposite. Just take the wind out of the sails early and shut them up.
I agree. Oregon goes to Washington. Washington's such a beautiful stadium. You saw it on game day last week in Eugene. Go to Seattle this weekend. Oregon's a 6.5-point favorite. The over-under is 51.5. And you kind of look at this game, and Oregon was probably one of the best teams in college football in 2023. I think they had a very good shot at winning the Natty. The team that was in their way is Kalen DeBoer's Washington Huskies. They lost to them twice. They lost to them in the regular season and the Pac-12 championship. Well, Kalen DeBoer's not there anymore. It's Jed Fish. And so they go to Washington. Washington's won 26 of the last 27 at home. The only team that played spoiler against them is the number 1 team in the country this year. Washington needs to run the ball. They can really get Damon Williams going if Damon Williams can be in the play action and maybe get some of those off-script plays. Damon Williams, a demon. Oregon's got one of the best defenses in the country, though. Oregon's got the 15th best rush defense, 3rd best pass defense, but USC got a little bit in the pass game last year. But Oregon ended up being the better team. I think special teams will play a big part in this game. Oregon's been very good in special teams this year. The thing that changed the game against USC is the punt return touchdown. And so you look at Washington in the red zone, they're 18th in the red zone offense. Oregon is 124th. So pretty much when Oregon lets you in, you get in the red zone, Oregon's letting you score. But there's got to be touchdowns. I think Oregon's going to be able to run the ball against you a little bit. Washington's 18th in rush defense. Oregon is 15th or 8th in rush offense. And so I think if you knock Oregon off their game, if they're able to run the ball, because that's ultimately what led them to the win against USC, I think you force Dante Moore to win it, and Dante Moore can sling it, but they're so beat up right now at receiver. It's just I think Washington's a better team than their record is at 8-3. They costed themselves 2 of their 3 games losing the turnover battle. The only one they didn't was Ohio State, and I think Ohio State was just the better team. And it's kind of hard to see what Washington does that's so special. They kind of just don't really have a great identity, and so I think that's going to cause a problem for Jed Fish and the Huskies. And Oregon might be playing their best ball right now.
When you look at some of these teams, you look at Oregon, you look at Georgia, they seem to be peaking kind of at the right time. Like they're going into the playoff, building momentum and whatnot. But historically, you look back and you mentioned Washington's won 27 of their last 28 at home. Washington has had Oregon's number in these big games, given I know it was under different coaches, different program or not programs, different head coaches and whatnot. But there's been a constant theme of, and this is having been someone who's watched Oregon football for years, as you may know, but there always seems to be a game that Oregon will drop when they really shouldn't. And so I have a feeling it could be this one. Washington could continue their dominance at home, but if Oregon's going to win, I think they need to live by that next man up mentality with the receiving core. Yeah, you guys are banged up, but I think they're going to need the pass game to open up the run game for them, try and get everything going and just kind of enter the flow state as a team, just kind of get everything moving and really hone in on what needs to happen and kind of patch the holes in the ship before you go and make your push for the Big Ten title game, assuming scenarios play out. And then ultimately the CFP. On the flip side, Washington, I'll be honest, I haven't watched a single Washington game this year, but not a Big Ten guy. I'm an Oregon guy. They were originally Pac-12, but I guess Washington was too. But I think you look at it, I think I'm going to say the same thing for Auburn too. You're going to need a little bit of voodoo magic here. I mean, it's David and Goliath. Washington, you look at the Ohio State game, played them close early. Ohio State pulled away more in the second half. I think they're going to need to lean on that home field advantage again, as a lot of teams will with rivalry weekend. But yeah, that's about it I have to say for them.
Well, my biggest thing is that Washington can't get down early. You're not going to be able to come. Oregon is too good. You're going to have to run the ball and compact the game. You have a lot less talent than Oregon does this year. You're going to have to compact the game. Michael Penix isn't walking through those doors. The game's going to have to be really compacted. And I think they can do it, but it's just a tough road. This Oregon defense has been incredibly good. Moving on to the next second biggest game of the weekend, the Iron Bowl. Bama comes in as to Jordan Hare as a 6.5 point favorite. The over under is 46.5. And it's a night game. And everyone's talked about this voodoo magic, but Bama's kind of had Auburn's number the last couple years when it comes to Jordan Hare. I believe 4th and 31 happened in Jordan Hare the last time they played there. So the voodoo magic might be working the other way. And so I do wonder. Well, I do wonder what everyone's talking about. I know Jordan Hare's gotten quite a few things, or gotten Bama quite a few times in there. But so you had Deuce Knight start for Auburn last week, and then they go to Ashton Daniels, who's 0-2 as a starter, but he did lead the comeback against Arkansas after they benched Jackson Arnold. against Vandy, Ashton Daniels, 31 of 44, 442 total yards. I believe 80 of those were rushing, and then 4 total TUDs. 2 were passing, 2 were rushing. Ashton Daniels might be able to sling it. The problem is you're running into Alabama's 4th-ranked pass defense. And so I think Ashton Daniels is going to have to get it running the ball. It's kind of been Auburn's identity on offense all year, is using the running quarterback, doing zone reads and stuff like that. Against Oklahoma, turnovers costed Alabama the game. They had been really good, not turning the ball over early in the season, but Tyson, and I didn't realize how bad this has been. Ty Simpson's had a turnover in each of the last 7 games, with 9 of them. A lot of them are fumbles. He's only thrown 4 interceptions this year. 2 of them were against Eastern Illinois last week. And so Oklahoma doesn't have an offensive identity, and at least Auburn kind of does. I mean, I know they've started 5 different quarterbacks this year, but uh, Alabama lost to a team at home with no crowd noise, still turned the ball over. Simpson still took sacks. This could match up to be a bad matchup for Alabama if Ashton Daniels is able to throw the ball. I think it's kind of a moot point if Bama's pass defense locks them up completely. Auburn is 100 in penalties and penalties yards. They're 132 in sacks allowed. And Bama's pass rush has gotten better throughout the year. It's not like a paper popper or like catch your eye type of stat for Bama, but they're getting better. One thing that really stuck out to me today, or when I was doing the research, is I believe Connor Tardy's made only 65 to like 75% of his field goals this year. That could be a problem in this game. Everyone knows Chris Davis kick 6, but if I'm Alabama, how much do we trust Connor Tardy? Or what? I forget his first name, but how much do we trust this kid? If this game is tight in the 4th quarter, which Auburn's going to have to run the ball, I think that's Alabama's weakness on defense and compact the game. If it comes down to a field goal, it might be a problem. So just something to look out for. Special teams might be huge in this game.
Would you like to notify the people of the little deal that was made?
I forget what it was.
So, Joey and I were talking on the phone the other day, as we always do. And I said, with all this voodoo magic, we could see another kick 6 this year. Especially with the kicking woes that Alabama has had. And you could see in a situation where the starter gets put in, or the starter's in, misses 1 or 2 field goals early. They pull him, put in a young freshman backup who's going to go with the game tied late to go kick a game winner, comes up just a little bit short, and Auburn returns it 109 yards. And so Joey didn't agree with that. So I said to put your money where your mouth is. And so if Auburn gets a kick 6, while it is not likely, if they get a kick 6, Joey will go out and buy, was it buy the kicker's jersey? Or just
No,
buy
it's
a
an
jersey?
Auburn jersey.
Player. So.
Auburn jersey, and I'll make my my Instagram page an Auburn fan account.
There we go. That was the other part.
Yeah, I remember now.
His personal Instagram.
Well, stay tuned. Anything left on the Iron Bowl SEC guy?
I think digging into the brain bank, I think this is going to play out very similar to Texas A&M and Auburn last year. I think the over is a very good play. While Bama's defense has been pretty solid, I think you're going to see Auburn generate some more points at home. I like the spread at 6.5 for Bama. But I really like the over. 46, I think, is a very low number for this game. I think you're going to end up seeing both teams in the mid to high 20s.
Well, I think if DJ Jerkin, he's got a really good, easy job this week. The Auburn defense, you show them the Oklahoma game film. Look at the way those guys attacked the ball. I think Bama fumbled the ball 4 times, only lost 2 of them, but they fumbled the ball 4 times, I believe. So I think that's gonna, if you can attack the ball, and you could tell that was intentional. If they can attack the ball and force turnovers, Alabama's gonna find themselves in a really, really cagey affair. And if Auburn can have their way, it's gonna be low scoring. Because I don't think Auburn can outscore Bama. But it might be one of those things where this game's like a 24-22 game, and you're wondering, how did we get? You turn it on, you're like, how did we get here? Send Connor Tardy out here. He made a 23-yarder earlier in the game, and so you send him out there for a 43-yarder, and he's gonna miss it, and Bama's out of the playoffs. So just something to watch out for. Like I said, I think Alabama's kicking problems are gonna come up huge in this game.
Now, I don't know if we've discussed it. I know I've discussed this with a couple other people. But should Alabama lose this game and get bounced from the playoff, do you think Kalen DeBoer is let go from his job?
No. Wait, why are we talking about letting guys go in their second year? He's not Saban, guys. He's not Saban. Nobody is going to do what Saban's doing. The fact that Ryan Day is on a 15-0 run right now is insanely impressive. That I don't think those type of things are going to happen in college football anymore. I really don't. The fact that Kurt Signetti is 11-0 with Indiana. The fact that Mike Elko is 11-0 with Texas A&M in his 3rd year. Like, it's not an easy thing to do. You saw how many 2-3 loss teams we had last year, and I think that's gonna be more the norm now. I don't think that all of a sudden you're just gonna snap your fingers and you can easily be 11-0. Anyways, anything else before I set the stage?
I was going to say something.
Go ahead.
I'm done with Iron Bowl. The last time that we had a podcast and talked about this, do you know what happened?
About what?
The game.
No, hold on. Let me set the stage for this. We can talk about this later. Let me set the stage for this. So, for podcast purposes, I will say that school's name. For podcast purposes only. Anyway, Ohio State at Michigan in Ann Arbor, noon kickoff. Big Noon's going to be there. Game Day's going to be there. Ohio State is a 9.5-point favorite. The over-under is 43.5. Ohio State was a 21-point favorite last year. And I've been seriously watching college football for quite a few years now. Been around college football all my life. That game was the most inexplicable result of a game ever. If you're Michigan in this game, you are coming in off of Sherrone Moore's second season. You have your $12 million quarterback. You're 9-2 with your playoff hopes on the line. You're looking to continue the streak of 4 straight years against the Buckeyes. It'll be 2,190 days since Ohio State has beaten you in 2019. And you're fighting for a conference championship spot. You're fighting for a playoff spot. If you're Ohio State, you're coming off the most inexplicable result of a game in a long time. The Michigan could not complete a forward pass last year. And you come into that game, you lose it. You have the whole flag planting thing, the fight after the game. You have all these things happen. You go and win a natty. But this game means more to both schools than a natty, to me at least, as an Ohio State fan. You've lost 4 in a row. If Ryan Day loses this one, everyone's going to call for his job, even though he just won a natty last year. They'll still be calling for his job if he goes and wins the natty this year. This game means a lot to both schools. The stakes are all there, yet there is pure hatred in this game. And for the sake of the preview, we're going to assume Jordan Marshall, Jeremiah Smith, and Carnell Tate are playing. It looks like they are both going to play. So let's go to on the field. First off, I want to say if Ohio State is as good as we think they are, there's very few teams that can compete with them. There's very few teams that will be able to beat them. If they're slightly fraudulent, Michigan's got a chance in this game. So, what is Michigan's strength? It's going to be running the ball. They're 10th on rush offense, 99 on pass offense. Ohio State has the number 2 rush defense, number 1 pass defense. So, it's the Wolverines come in on a 5-game winning streak, no losses at home this year. They have 3 different running backs with 3 TDs in 1 game. Red zone offense is going to be a big thing in this game. Ohio State's red zone defense is top 10. The Wolverines' red zone offense is 107. And you go to Ohio State. Ohio State's defense is historically good. Top 10 in third down, points per game, total yards, red zone, yards of rush, rush yards, yards of pass, pass yards, and pass yards. And there's probably a couple more stats that they're top 10 in. But Ohio State's defense is historically good. For Ryan Day and the Buckeyes last year, so the team that has won the rushing battle in this game has won the game since 2001. Every single time. I think the problem Ryan Day ran into last year is he thought that no one should be pushing Ohio State around. We are Ohio State. We should dominate the trenches. And him and Chip Kelly convinced themselves that it was being a great idea to just pound the rock against Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant and all those elite defensive linemen. And you just couldn't do that. I don't think the Wolverines have that top-end talent this year, but that's not your game. You need to let the horses out of the stable. You need to let them run wild. You need to let go every weapon in the playbook, every weapon on your team, and you need to just unleash it. The weather at kickoff is going to be low 30s, high 20s with an 80% chance of snow throughout the game. I think that favors the Wolverines. Ohio State needs to play Ohio State's game. Julian Saint's not turning the ball over a lot this year. Snow maybe could affect that. And I think the big thing in this game is going to be 40 cap buster plays. 30-plus yard runs or 40-plus yard passes. Ohio State is top 15 in 40-plus yard passes. The Wolverines are number 1 in 40-plus pass yard defense. They've only given up 2 this year. On the converse, the Wolverines are top 15 in 30-plus yard run plays. Ohio State is number 2, only giving up 1 of them. Those are going to be few and far between, but I only think it's going to take a couple of them to decide the outcome of this game. I think cap buster plays are going to be the difference in this game. And there's a chance in this game where Ohio State ends up being up 21-0 in the first quarter. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think there's a chance. And so I don't think there's really any chance of the Wolverines doing that. Michigan needs to make the game like it was last year. They need to compact the game. They need to run the ball, kill the clock. Don't let Ohio State, especially if Ryan Day and the Buckeyes come out with guns blazing. This rivalry is very near and dear to my heart. And there's a very real possibility that Ohio State comes out and just thinks they need to win the rushing battle. I don't think that stat matters in this game. I don't. I think the rushing game will come if you're able to throw the ball down the field. I don't think they have the elite corner talent that they did last year. They're still very good. They have the number 52 pass defense, is a little bit weaker than their rush defense. I think you've got to launch the ball. You need to let all your horses out of the stable and let them go. I'm done.
I think if Michigan is going to win this game, they're going to need to do what Oklahoma did to Alabama. Just hang around, and at some point late in the game, force a fatal turnover, and that will ultimately be what's going to decide it. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be neck and neck going up until the end. And what's going to decide it is who's going to force the dagger of a turnover, whether it's a bad throw, interception, or a ball is coming free. But I think it's going to be one of those is going to happen mid to late in the fourth, and someone's going to get primo field positioning to go up 2 scores and put it away. Who that is, I don't know. But
if I'm trying to envision myself in Ryan Day's head, I think he knows what he has to do, but you've got to let the horses out of the stable. And this is assuming Jeremiah and Carnell are playing. I'm very worried about this game if Jordan Marshall plays and Jeremiah and Carnell aren't playing. It looks like from everything I've read that all 3 of them are playing. I know a little bit less about Jordan Marshall. Last I saw, he should be playing. Obviously, not having Justice Haynes is going to be hurtful for them. And anything can happen in this game. Both these defenses are pretty stout in what they do. So we'll just have to play it out, and I will hope for the best. Anything else before we get to picks?
do you have any prediction on this game?
We will get to that. All right. Charlotte. So every game that we are picking is either some sort of rivalry or they have playoff implications, which is pretty much every game this weekend. So we will start with the G5 games that we have. Charlotte is playing at Tulane. Tulane is the 30.5-point favorite. Who do you got and how do you like it?
Tulane to cover Charlotte's offense. I mean, I think they played Georgia last week. They put up 3. Wouldn't have covered the 30.5, but I think that the spread there was a little bit more. Charlotte's just abysmal this year. Not their year. Tulane to cover. They need style points, especially if they're going to go on to try and win the American.
All right, I will take Charlotte to cover. Temple at North Texas. North Texas is a 20.5-point favorite.
Give me Temple to cover.
I will side with you on that one. James Madison is a 21.5-point favorite at Coastal Carolina.
Coastal Carolina to cover.
I will agree. I will pick all 3 dogs in these games. I think these spreads are a little lofty. And we will go to the Power 5. This game has slight playoff implications. SMU is at Cal. SMU is 13.5-point favorites.
Give me Cal in the commies.
I will pick SMU. I think SMU is going to compete for style points. UCF is going to BYU. 17.5-point favorites BYU is.
Give me BYU.
I will take UCF. I think that BYU's been playing a dangerous game with a lot of these teams. Actually, no, I'm switching it. Give me BYU. BYU's played 2 of their best games of the year the last 2 weeks against TCU and Cincy. I will take that. Notre Dame is a 31.5-point favorite at Stanford.
Give me Stanford.
I agree. I think 31.5 is a lot. This is not Syracuse. Utah, it's 10.5 point favorite at Kansas.
I like Utah.
I will take Utah as well. I think they tempted fate last week, and they're not going to do it again, considering they're going to try to make the committee say no. Penn State goes to Rutgers. Penn State on a little bit of a hot streak right now. Terry Smith pushing for a job. Penn State's 13.5 point favorite.
Give me Penn State.
I will side with you on that one. LSU at Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a 10.5 point favorite.
Oklahoma.
Take Oklahoma as well. Covering the spread actually requires LSU to score points. Indiana's at Purdue, 28.5 point favorite.
Signetti knows how to win big.
Indiana.
Yeah.
I will take Indiana. Actually, no, I will take Purdue. Purdue is completely undervalued this year. Texas Tech's 23.5 point favorite against West Virginia.
Texas Tech.
I will
But
side with you on.
realistically, if I was putting money on it, I'm not touching that game.
Most of these spreads I'm not touching. I think Oklahoma minus 10.5 is the bet of the weekend, though. Texas Tech. I will take Texas Tech, also fighting for a little bit of style points because they can win the Big 12 championship. They might slide into a 4 seed. And I just don't think West Virginia's got it. I think they're going to turn the ball over a couple times. NC State's a 7.5 point favorite at North Carolina.
Give me North Carolina.
All right. I will take NC State. Oregon State at Washington State. Wazoo's a 13.5 point favorite.
Quick question. Does this count as the Pac-12 championship?
Well, they've already played once this year and Wazoo won. I think it is, though. I think that they split. I don't know what happens if they split. But Oregon State's abysmal this year, so I don't think there's much of a chance of that happening.
Give me Washington State. Just quick question that popped in.
I will take Wazoo as well. UCLA is at USC, 21.5 point favorites. USC is.
Give me UCLA.
I will take USC. UCLA looked awful last week. Virginia Tech is at Virginia. Virginia's an 8.5 point favorite.
Virginia.
I will side with you on that one. Ole Miss, 7.5 point favorite at Mississippi State.
Ole Miss.
I will take. And we didn't. I don't think there's much of a chance that Mississippi State wins this game. I think the only way it does is if the distractions really do creep in on Ole Miss. I will tentatively take Ole Miss, but the distractions worry me a little bit. But Mississippi State's season's kind of got off the rails as well. Georgia at Georgia Tech, except it's not at Georgia Tech. 13.5 point favorite is Georgia.
Georgia Tech to cover, Georgia to win.
I will take Georgia to cover. And we would do pick 'em. Now we're just picking teams to win. I will say the spread anyway. Boston College is a 3.5 point favorite at Syracuse.
Boston College.
I agree. Wake Forest is a pick 'em at Duke.
Give me Duke.
I will side with you on that one. Wisconsin's a pick 'em at Minnesota.
Give me Minnesota.
I will take Wisconsin. Cincinnati's at TCU. TCU's a 4.5 point favorite.
TCU. I also like them to cover.
I will take TCU as well. Mizzou is a 2.5 point favorite at Arkansas. I will take Mizzou.
I don't know.
You don't trust Bo and the boys? All right.
Give me Arkansas to win their first
Iowa is
SEC
a
game
five
of
and a
the
half
year.
point favorite at Nebraska. No. All right. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. Iowa is a 5.5 point favorite at Nebraska.
Give me Iowa.
I will concur. Northwestern is at Illinois.
Give me Northwestern.
I will take Illinois. Kentucky is at Louisville.
I like Kentucky here.
I will take Louisville. Or no, give me Kentucky. Louisville's been on a tailspin. They had like 7 weeks of gas. Houston is at Baylor. Baylor's a 2.5 point favorite.
I like Houston.
I will take Houston as well, even though they're coming off a really bad loss. The game you care about the most, Clemson at South Carolina. South Carolina's a 3.5 point favorite.
Cox by 90.
I don't think the Cox have scored 90 points this year, but I will take Clemson. Florida State is at Florida. Pick 'em.
Florida.
I will take Florida as well. They got dominated in the swamp last weekend. Miami at Pitt.
Pitt.
I will take Miami. As much as I don't want to, the cold weather scares me. The nightcap on Friday night. Arizona's a 1.5 point favorite at Arizona State.
Arizona State.
I will side with you as well. Vandy is at Tennessee. 3.5 point favorite is Tennessee.
Tennessee.
I will take Vandy. I think Vandy is going to force the committee to tell them no. Oregon, 6.5 point favorite at Washington.
Oregon.
Oregon to win and cover. A&M at Texas. Pick 'em.
Texas.
I will take A&M. Bama, 6.5 point favorite at Auburn.
Give me Auburn.
I will take Auburn as well. That's not good. That means it's definitely not going to happen. Ohio State, the game of the weekend. 9.5 point favorites at that team up north. Who do you like?
Michigan.
I will take the Wolverines to cover. I will not pick this game because either way, it's going to backfire on me. So
Which means Michigan.
That's why I'm not picking. I will take them to cover because this game is typically close. This is me assuming that the Wolverines. This is assuming that Ohio State doesn't go up 21-0 in the first quarter, which I think is about a 15% chance of happening. It just depends. It kind of depends. I don't think Ohio State will be able to do it if there's already snow on the ground. I just think it's going to limit the pass game. I think it's going to hurt Ohio State more than it'll help. I've seen people say the converse. But if there's not snow on the ground, there's a chance. Anything left before I sign us out? All right. If you are tuning in and you watched a slightly pieced together version of the episode, thank you so much for tuning in. Please subscribe. It only helps us. We're trying to get our faces to more people out there. We really appreciate it. Have the greatest Thanksgiving weekend of all time. Try not to argue with your family too much. And have an amazing weekend.